Yeah, okay. That should be good.
Okay, I see you in there now. It's recording. Can I just hit stop?
All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Hometown Association of Realtors Hot Topic Tuesday talk session. I think we're still working on the name. Today, we're going to be talking about Realtors Property Resource. I want to welcome everybody that has joined us today. If you have any questions during the class, please just enter them in the chat box. With any technology platform, it's best if I can answer those questions while we're in the area of the platform that you have a question on, especially with RPR, because it's such an extensive database of information. So I want to welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and get started today. So the first question is, what is RPR? If you're unfamiliar with Realtors Property Resource, it's basically NAR's technology company. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of the National Association of Realtors. It does have a national database. It's parcel centric, so there's information about 166 US properties in that database. Not to mention that, there's also 365 different databases of information that we import into this platform so that we have tons of information from you. That's anything from census data to school information. We partner with greaterschools.net to some remodeling information we're going to get to in the CMA part, which is handled by Hanley and Wood. So we have tons and tons of information and databases that are linked to Realtors Property Resource. And just as an example, RPR has 365 different databases of material coming into one platform. If you're familiar with using Remind, they have 27 different databases of information coming into that platform. So you can see the power that RPR has over other types of similar platforms. This is for the exclusive use of Realtor members only. If you're not a member of the National Association of Realtors, you will not have access to this platform. It is delivered through a constantly evolving leading edge application. And when I say that, I mean that, because when we first rolled this out, well, actually the first rollout was back when we funded them in 2008, 2009, when I was president of the DeKalb Area Association of Realtors. We funded them. They didn't go online until 2011. When they did, there was very sparse offerings there. I actually attended the National Association convention when it was in Florida. I think we're going 3 years ago now. 4 years ago, and they were looking for instructors. And so that's how I became certified to teach RPR. But where I'm going with that is every 30 days I get, or I used to get, a email that indicated of all the changes that were being implemented in the last 30 days on this platform. Now we've gone to a 90-day implementation for that, but it's still constantly evolving. So they keep adding things to this, and they're going to continue to do so. This is at no additional charge to you as a realtor. It's part of your National Association dues. And again, there's no consumer or public access to this particular platform. The only way your consumers or your clients are going to see information that comes from this platform is if you send them a report. Okay, that's what it is. And then what is it not? It's not an MLS. It's never going to be a nationwide MLS. MLSs deal with compensation. The National Association of Realtors really wants nothing to do with that. It's not a consumer-facing business model. We're not out there trying to get hits in the general public. This is for realtor use only. We don't syndicate these information to anybody. We don't redistribute your information to anybody. We take in the data provided to you. We don't send it out to anybody else. And again, just to reiterate, this is not available to anyone except members of the National Association of Realtors. So things I get asked all the time is, how can I use it? Well, this is fantastic to research property details, especially off-market properties that you have a hard time finding information on other platforms for. Now, there are other platforms out there that have some information about off-market properties, but not to the extent that RPR does. So if you're headed out on a listing appointment, and you need more information about the property that you're going to be actually interviewing for the job for, this is a great place to start. There is a powerful, very powerful CMA tool in RPR. It's probably one of the best in the industry. And it helps us accurately price a property. Also, with RPR, and what I love the most about it is probably the best farming and prospecting tool. I'm going to show you how to set up custom areas that you can farm and prospect from. You can actually print labels from this platform. They do usually limit the number of labels, but I think right now due to COVID, they've enhanced the number of labels I can print up to 2,000 per month. So that's quite a feature. Our RPR reports, we have 8 different reports in there. They go from creating property flyers. They have a fantastic platform for that. And also we have buyers reports, we have CMA reports, we have valuation reports, and I'll show you all of those. So our listing presentation reports and things, our sellers reports, they can be in excess of 100, 125 pages. So with that kind of data, if you were to go on a listing presentation, you're most certainly to stand out. And there's so much more to this platform. One thing that is integral to the Realtors Property Resource and something that they came up with is the Realtors Valuation Model. Now, everyone out here should be familiar with an AVM. That's an automated valuation model. If you have a problem of remembering that, just think this estimate. That's a value estimate calculated on only the public data that's available. Now, Zillow does have public data for sold and closed. What they don't have is an overlay of the MLS data. So Realtors Property Resource and the National Association of Realtors copyrighted or trademarked the Realtors Valuation Model. This is an estimate of that property's value based on all public records, but also based on the MLS active sold and off-market data for the area. So what you're going to have here is the highest accuracy of any valuation product that's out in the marketplace at the moment. That being said, remember that whether it's an AVM or an RVM, these are starting values. If you've ever seen 2 houses sitting next door to one another, right? And I love the 1960s, not just because I was born then, but I think they were building better houses in the 60s. The 1960s, let's say I have 2 ranches sitting side by side, right? Built by the same builder at the same time, within a year apart, same floor plan, etc. Those 2 properties may have the same RVM or AVM, but they could be totally different values because one may be a mausoleum to the 1960s and nothing's been updated. And in their neighbor's house, maybe they were doing capital improvements to that property every year. So I just want to stress that the RVM and or if you're working with an AVM, those are starting values. You have to rely on our professionalism, our expertise to actually come up with the value on the CMA. One thing I will say about RPR is you will see different AVMs, different valuations of property on all those third-party websites, and they just throw a value out there and they don't really tell you anything about the value. With RPR, we actually give you a confidence score. So you can have from 0 stars or up to 5 stars. Why is this important? We are analyzing the data that we have in-house or in the platform, and we are saying we've got tons and tons of data. There's a lot of turnover in this neighborhood. We are very, very confident of that, so we're going to give it a 5-star RVM rating. And again, that's supposed to be within 10% of the property's estimated value 90% of the time. If we don't have good data, for example, I listed a house down in Compton, Illinois. There hadn't been a house sold there in 3 years. So when I pulled up the property in RPR, it said 1 star because they didn't have the sales required in order to give that score the confidence it needed to be a higher star, right? So a little more work was required. But at least we're honest. You know, we're going to tell you, hey, we don't have that much information on that. Good luck. Whereas if it's a 5-star, hey, we've got tons and tons of activity in this neighborhood. We are very, very confident about where we're starting in our price point. And then everywhere in between. So just keep that in mind. We're going to go live into our system now. So bear with me just a moment. And I will switch over to my live version. So what you see on your screen now, this should be your sign-in screen. Now, if you're a managing broker or owner, if you notice, I have mine branded with my realty name. You can brand yours as well. If you have not taken the steps to do that, there's an Excel spreadsheet. I can help you with that in after class. Just send me a personalized note. But because you do need to send them the logos, they need to import all that. Process takes a couple weeks. But this is where you're at. If you notice on this front page, on the left-hand side, we have all of our training, our helpful tips, tricks, videos. We have quick start guides. Any way you can learn, we have pretty much incorporated that into our training. So we have quick start guides, which are printed. We have videos, which you can watch. We have live webinars, which this is. And then we have our support desk, which is in Omaha, Nebraska. They speak both English and Spanish. The number's here at the very bottom, the 877 number, or you can live chat with them. Now that call center is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do not call them and ask them training questions because that's not what they're there for. Our help desk is there if you have a problem with the system, it's not acting correctly, and or you find incorrect or invalid information in the system. A lot of our information is being uploaded from the county. So our records are only as good as the county records are. They don't always have the best information. So if you see something that's not correct, let us know and we'll correct it. The other thing I want to bring your attention to here is that we've got a residential side and a commercial side. Today we're dealing primarily with the residential side, or I should say solely with the residential side. But if I wanted to switch to my commercial side, I simply click this button. It's an on and off button. If I click to commercial, it'll take me into the commercial side. Okay. So the commercial is really cool, but we're not going to go over that today. It's a very, very involved process. Just as an example, on the residential side, I have 17 different classes that I can teach. Today, we're just kind of going to go over the basics. So if you need to create an account, click on this button down at the bottom. I always like to stay signed in for 2 weeks or more. There is a RPR mobile version. If you don't have that, please download that as well. Just look for Realtors Property Resource. It will have a logo looking similar to the one that you saw on my main screen or also here on the bottom. So once you have your account, you're just going to sign in. And if you've taken any of my classes in the past, especially technology classes, you know, my theory is if you can learn the navigation for the site, you are 90% of the way to the data. So let's take a look at our navigation. At the very top, you see I've got my logo here. That would be where your logo would show up. I have my home screen, and so I've got 392,000 properties that are listed right now, 183,000 leases that are out there. So I have my home screen, my results screen, details, report screen up at the top, this little graduation cap. That is our learning center. If you were to click on that, that would give you our learning menu. And then what I want to draw your attention to is on the far right-hand side, we've got our cogwheel. Now that cogwheel is our settings. You may see that in your iPhone or your Android phone. That's the international side now for settings. At the very top, it says welcome Todd. It says commercial here. If I were to click on that commercial link, it would switch me over to commercial. And I'm just going to click it real quick to show you that the colors change. So you know what side of the platform you're on. It's that simple to switch over to commercial. These are the searches I can do for commercial, but today we're going to be talking about residential.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
Okay, so your screen isn't moving. It's set on the RPR. Now let's get started screen.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank Gary.
How's that?
That's better. There we go.
Okay, so let me just do that again. See my commercial up here at the top? If you click on that, it's going to take you to the red. Did everybody's screen turn red? Anyone? Just want to make sure my screens are moving.
Yes, I can see it.
All right, thank you, Gary. I'm going to switch back to residential. So as I was talking about, and you guys couldn't see, we have all of these tabs up here, but here's the cogwheel I was talking about. If I click on that, that's going to take me to my profile page. And this is where I can upload my photos, my logos. Now, uploading your logo here does not translate to having the entire platform branded for your brokerage, just so you know that. I can change my logo, I can delete my logo, then I can add all of my information here, whatever information you want on your business card. Your email address, any office websites, your MLS IDs here. If you notice, I'm in MRED right now. I do also teach for Rockford area, so I do have access to their data as well. You can insert your license number. It automatically pulls up your designations. Those are going to come directly from the National Association of Realtors. And you can have up to 3 assistant users on here. So they can be, searching data, inputting data for you. And at the very bottom here, we have our news subscription and privacy policy. So I already get RPR news and updates, and I already read the terms of use in the privacy policy. But basically, if you need to make any changes to your profile, you're going to do it on this page, right? On the right-hand side, you can enter your NERDS number. You can change your password. And then this is kind of cool. It's going to actually show you where you have logged in to RPR. Here's my mobile access screen. So my tablet, my phone, things like that, all of those are going to be showing up here how I access it, okay? And then it updates every 3 months. So once you have your profile the way you want it, simply make sure you click Save. If I click over to my Settings tab, these are going to be proprietary to your login. So like when I say I want to see all new listings, well, what does new listings mean to me? My new listings are set for 3 days, but maybe if you're in a hot market, you know, downtown Chicago, you may want to set those new listings to just 1 day. Or if you're in a, you know, kind of a laid back market, you can set your new listings to everything in the last 30 days. So you tell the system what you believe to be a new listing. Okay, that's kind of cool. No other platform does that. It allows me to decide when my new listings, you know, what the dates are for my new listings. I have mine set for 3 days. And then I've got my recently solds. Again, you can set the time frame for that from 7 days all the way up to 180 days. I like to make sure that my recently solds pop up on my screen if they're less than 30 days. On the commercial side, you can do the exact same thing. Now these home areas, I've got home areas listed here that just makes it easier for me to search. Home areas were more prevalent when this platform was originally laid out, and they had better, better uses for our home areas. We still have that ability to put them in here as a search criteria that we can jump to quickly, but not as important as they used to be. Once I have all of my settings saved, I simply just want to click that save screen. Make sure you do click save so that you can save all the changes that you've made. As we're waiting for our screen to load here, it'll let me know that I'm updated it. So I can just simply go right here back to my home page. And this is what my home page is going to look like. If you notice, we can search by all properties. We can search for sale properties. We can search for lease properties. I have neighborhood information in here, school information, and also my market activity. So all properties I use, and I'm going to go through a demonstration of that for properties that are not currently on the market. So let's just take a real quick search here. I'm just going to put in a, oops, I can type. Put in a search city. Once I do that, if you notice, it's automatically going to pop up with an autofill area. I'm going to search the entire zip code. This is for all properties. Now, I'm not necessarily looking for properties that are on the market. I'm just seeing what's out there. If you notice, I've got my value range that I can input. I've got my bedrooms and bathrooms. And if I click on this advanced tab, it's going to show me a lot of other search options. Okay. So what I can't search for here that I cannot on the MLS is, first of all, off-market properties, right? But here I can also search for a last name. I can search by tax ID number. I can do a keyword search. I can have up to 6 keywords. Sample keyword be like pool, fenced yard, something like that. Something it's going to actually look for in the property description, and it'll pull up that property for you. I can show properties that are distressed or non-distressed. Distress simply means that they have received a lis pendens notice. And a lis pendens is basically any notification sent to the court about a pending court procedure on a property. 99% of the time, it's going to be about foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, and from the mortgage company. Not always, but most of the time. So we can search by distressed listings if that is your niche market. I can also include my for sale, my pending, or my for lease. If I uncheck any of these boxes, it's not going to show me those. It's just going to show me all my off-market properties. Square footage, I can search by my sold dates. I can search by, and this is a great farming and prospecting technique here using my sold date. So according to the National Association of Realtors profile of home buyers and home sellers, we've gone from a typical home seller living in their property for 6 to 7 years, and now we are advanced into the 10 to 11 year range. So if I wanted to maybe target or farm for properties that I think may be in that time frame where they've lived in their house for 11, 15, 20 years, and you think they might be getting ready to sell, I can sort by the date range, okay? Or I can do my drop-down box here, but it only goes to 3 years. My date range, it's unlimited. And then I can also search by property type. So for today, I'm going to uncheck all these other property types and just show you my single family homes. Once you have all your search criteria in there, I'm not going to put in price points and things. I'm simply going to click search. You notice before I do that, on the left-hand side, if I have any saved searches, saved properties, saved areas, saved neighborhoods, I can jump to those immediately here for previous work. So right here, I'm going to click on search in DeKalb. It's going to show me the boundary lines for the zip code for the city of DeKalb, and then on my map, and then it's going to actually give me a list of all the properties. So I have 884 pages of properties in DeKalb. Now again, these are off-market properties. I can sort this list in numerous ways: by least expensive, recently updated, most expensive, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, the owner name, sold, listed price ratio. You can search and or sort this list any way you'd like. I like to search by square footage. It's going to just intermingle my price points here as well. So we do have our for sales. We do have some solds in here that are off market. If you notice, here's one off market. It was canceled listing from 2010. This is a single family residence. And then we have just tons of properties. So I'm going to go into property details here. But if you notice, you want to change any of these criteria, you can filter it on the left-hand side here. You have same search criteria. All you need to do is once you change your search criteria, click apply, and it will change your search results. On the right-hand side of my screen, RPR loves graphics, loves data analysis. I love it for that. So we've got our median estimated home values here. This is going to show our zip code, DeKalb, both incorporated and unincorporated, and then also the state of Illinois. Those are my three choices here. So I also have 12-month change in median estimated home value, my median listing sales price, and my median days in RPR. You can learn more about the neighborhood by clicking here, but we're going to get to our neighborhood activity in just a moment. If you notice, we have mailing labels, and I can actually print each page. But right now we're going to delve into one of the property pages and see what it looks like. So here's a property that was recently sold. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that one up. It was for $800,000. Should be kind of a cool property. So because it had a recently sold date, you notice my RVM value. Now this is my property screen. For each property in RPR, you're going to see a summary screen like this, right? It's going to have all tons of information on it. We're going to go through here for you. So this is 132 Greenwood Acres Drive in DeKalb. Sold price of $800,000. It sold back in March of 2020. There's the listing ID at the time. Here's my RVM value. Now, anytime you see one of these little eyes, little blue circles with an eye in it, you can roll over that and it will give you information about that particular area of RPR. So my RVM, if I roll over that, it tells me what an RVM is. If I go over my basic facts, it tells me about my basic facts. If you notice on this particular property, we have a confidence score of 5. And there's a value property analysis for our investors here. That is a third-party website. If you were to click on that, it will take you out of RPR. And we're not going to cover that today. My RPR confidence score, as I said, is 5 stars. Gives me a range of 753 to 833. Last list price was $985. And this ended up selling for $800,000. Shows who owns the property. And then we have our listing photos. This is from the most recent listing. If the listing agent has allowed those photos to remain on the MLS after the listing is either sold or expired. As you're entering information to Emerald, you can indicate that you do not want anything except the first exterior photo to be included and any off-market property. So if that were the case on this one, we would only see the main photo. But there's 69 photos of this property for this listing. Here is the description as it comes directly out of the MLS. Okay. If you notice, I have a button here, and I can go through all these photos individually. I can make them large by just clicking on my large link. I can scroll through them just like I would in any other property. What an awesome house. Okay, so I'm going to close that out, but I have a view historical photos here. Okay, so if I click on my view historical photos, it's going to open up another dialog box. Now it's showing my 2020 listing, but if you notice, there's a jump menu here. And if I can jump to when this house was listed back in September of 2019 and see the photos that that agent used, if it was a different agent, to promote the property. I've seen historical photos go back 15 years. So you can just kind of go through the different photos. I got 138 photos there total. And then these are from the 2019 listing. So something really cool. Throughout this process, I can add notes. I can also, if you're on the RPR mobile app, I can add audio notes to myself. So I don't want to text a note, I can simply click record and I can record my voice and add notes that way. Now these notes remind me to show you when we do our reports. You may not want these to print on your seller's report, but you can print them. But this is where I take notes when I'm having a conversation with my seller, a pre-listing conversation. You know, I list some updates. Might be for the property, the carpet. I want to indicate there's pets in the home. These are things that I use for my own internal use in my brokerage, just to remind me. You notice this automatically goes include in my reports. I don't include my notes in my reports, so make sure you go and check that button. But this is just so that you have some notes when you're talking to the client. You don't have to write them down and transfer them. You can take them right in the system here. We also have property notes here. You can add another note here. There's different ways to add them throughout the platform. I can upload a photo. So let's say I was going on a listing appointment to show this property, okay? And I can upload a photo that I want to use on my cover page. Let me just upload a photo here. Once I do that, it's going to upload the photo. Now this photo is not going to match this property, of course, because I'm using it for sample purposes. But it's going to upload my photo here, depending on your internet speed. So as we wait for that to load, bear with me just one moment. Okay, it's not, there it goes. There we are. So it'll give me the date I added it, and then I can edit that photo here. If I just click on this expansion screen, it's going to take me to a larger version of the photo, okay? But there's an edit button right next to it. If I click on edit, I can add more photos to this set if I want to have additional photos, and they would print in a report for my client. I haven't been inside this house yet, so it's hard for me to add additional photos at this point. But the most important thing I want to show you here is this checkbox, used for report covers. Now this picture is going to be on the report that I send to my potential seller. Once you do that though, you must click save. If I were to exit out of this or click cancel, it's not going to make that my report cover. So always click save, and it'll give me a note my cover report is set. Moving down our screen here, we have our homeowner fax. This is from our public records. Then we have our home fax. We have both listing fax, public fax, and then I can make some changes to it, okay? So you can make changes if you want to. This one's pretty well filled in. But if something was incorrect or maybe something has changed, you know, you can make those changes here as well. Again, another place for notes. And then we have some more charts and information here. This is a median estimated home value. Then we have our listing details. This is directly from the MLS on the previous listing. Tells you where it's from, what type of listing it was, any showing instructions that are available. We have our room details. All of the information from the MLS basically is right here. I have my school information. Schools are based on location here, based on where the property is located. It's not as reliable if you're in an area like Champaign where they have a school of choice, but it will show you which ones are geographically located near it. These are part of the school district. If I were to click on any one of these schools, it's going to open up a new window. And there's the information about Gwendolyn Brooks. Okay, I opened that, just had it open in a new tab. But we're going to get to the school information shortly. If you notice, all the public schools are going to have a grade. Private schools don't get a rating. Then we have our legal descriptions here. My tax information is here. My deed records are here. We can learn a whole lot about deed records. This one doesn't have a whole file because it's fairly new property. So each one of the properties in RPR is going to have this information. Now on the right-hand side, we do have more charts and graphs. We have the historical records for this property. Again, here's the listing that we've seen the photos from. And then here was a previous listing here in 2019. I can also compare those historical records if I want a side-by-side comparison. I click on that link. I can compare the 2019 or 2020 listing with the 2019 listing side by side. So this looks like a pretty clone listing, right? Except the price changes are different. Listing ID was Kelly Miller in both situations, so she was allowed to use her same photos. Now I can actually compare like this latest listing with my public record data as well. So I can set the columns up side by side. Now this is my public record data. Not as much information on it because it's not coming from the MLS. It's a really cool feature here in RPR that I can kind of set to, you know, when this property was listed side by side and kind of see a history of what was happening to it. Here then we have just more graphs and charts and graphs and charts and graphs and charts. And then we have all of our listings of schools here, right? That's on the right-hand side, but there's an area just for schools. If you notice, we have a Google map right here. It's a very small map at the moment, but I do want to concentrate on the map for just a moment. Excuse me. If I click on my map, click on bigger map, it's going to open up a map and it's going to automatically show where this property is. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can get the full of this map. So if you notice, I've zoomed out. Here's my subject property. It's in orange. This is the neighborhood, okay? So these are all properties that are off market. If you notice in my map legend here, single family, little house, right? If it's a lot and ranch, it's gonna have a little sign like that. And then farms and ranches have their own little icon. And then the property status is gonna be determined by color. So I got my subject property in orange. I've got a for sale property right here at 225 that's in blue. If you notice what type of sign that is, that's just a vacant lot, right? And then I have my off market, and then if there were any distressed properties, they'd be in red. If there was any recently sold in this map, it would be in green. So these are the properties in the neighborhood. So I can, these are all off market properties along with my subject property. But if I click my mouse on any one of these little house icons, it'll give me like a little short, brief description of it. Just gives me a sold date, gives me the AVM value. I can get more details. Now, if I click on more details, it's going to open up the same screen I'm on, except for it's going to be about the new property, right? It's going to be the summary screen and my detailed screen for my new property. So pretty cool maps. The other things I'm going to show you here, I'm going to just back out just a little bit more as well. Once I get so far out, you're not going to be able to see all of the values. My subject property is going to stay there. But I can do quite a few things with this map. If you notice, I can draw a shape. I can draw a box, a radius, or a polygon, just like we can in any MLS. I can drop a pin, and this is kind of a cool feature. So I can do a drive time thing. So let's say I work at Mardi Gras Lanes. I'm going to drop a pin right there. And I say, I commute to work at 8 o'clock on Mondays, and I don't want my commute to be over 15 minutes. If I click apply here, it's going to give me a radius of areas that that house can be in where I can drive to Mardi Gras Lanes within 15 minutes at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Now I can change that to walking distance. So let's say I can only walk 15 minutes. Well, I don't know what formula they use for walking, but to RPR, this would be 15-minute walk from where I drop the pin. And I can drop the pin anywhere. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that out. I can also use custom areas. These are custom areas that I've created, okay? And I can save them. And I can also show my geographies here. So let's say I wanted to show my school districts. Let me back this map out just a little bit more. So I've actually set it for 9th through 12th grade, but I can actually do, my middle schools. And then if you notice, it's going to populate where the middle school boundaries are. If I were to click on any of these middle school boundaries, this is Clinton Rosette's boundary lines. You notice I automatically get 2 options at the top of my map. One is to create a market activity report just for that school district. So just the houses that are in that school district. Or I can search for properties within that geography. This is a fantastic tool, right? Are school districts important to buyers? I would say 100%, they're very important. So if I have a client looking for a property in the Clinton Rosette Middle School area, I can just simply click on searching that geography and find it for them. This is like a toggle switch with my mouse. So let's say I'm also looking, okay, I didn't like that. So now it's actually adding the Huntley Middle School here. So I've got Huntley selected and I've got Clinton Rosette selected. Think of this as a toggle on and off switch with your mouse. So if I want to deselect an area, I simply click it and it then changes. I'm going to get out of there, but I can also search by all these zip codes, neighborhoods, school districts, census tracts, if you know those. If there's any opportunity zones, we've added those into the platform as well. So you can actually drill down pretty cool with our map. One other cool feature about my map, I'm just gonna move it out just a little so I have a little more space on here. Excuse me. If you notice now I have my zip codes highlighted, so it's actually breaking this down into zip codes, but I can hide all my geographies, which I'm gonna do right now. We also have a grayscale map here. I like the road map. You can do an aerial map. You can do an overhead view, all of those things. I like the road map. And before I get into some of these heat maps, which are going to be right here and show you what you can learn from those, I want to show you this really cool tool. It's my points of interest. If I click on points of interest, I'm going to take my area and then I can say, well, I want to see where all the daycares are. Well, if you notice, all these little buttons just popped up of daycares. I click on those, that's Heaven's Little Anointed. Gives you information about that daycare. If I wanted to say I want to be near grocery stores, I can highlight those. Now all my grocery stores are populating up, right? So there's America's Best Optical Goods Store. Here is DeKalb Pharmacy. So you see my points of interest. I can kind of tell people what's around the area, what's in their neighborhood. What's really cool about this, and it's the only one I've ever seen, is that we have a real estate link here. So all those buttons that just showed up for real estate. I'm going to hide this real quick. But if I drill down, I want to show you each one of these little points of interest has their own icons. Once I drill down a little bit further. All right, so if you notice these little baskets, well, these are supermarkets. You notice these little realtor signs? These are real estate offices. And then if you see this little Care Bear dude, click on him, that is child care. So they've done some really cute things with this. But I can basically do all of my point of views here. I took them off. The other thing I want to show you in this, I'm going to back out my map again. We're still on the main summary screen for this property, but I want to show you my heat maps. My heat maps are probably one of my favorite things in RPR because they indicate what's happening in the neighborhood. So the ones I use primarily, I've got my 12-month change in estimated value. If you notice now, it just populated my screen with colors. So red, anywhere in RPR is bad. Okay, blue is good. The higher gradient of red means the more, the change has gone down. So here's my gradient in my rate. So darkest red in the last 12 months, the market's dropped 15%. My darkest blue, it's gone up 20%. So you can kind of see this is a great tool that I use with my sellers, especially after they've been on the market for a while and they're asking me questions like, well, my sister has a house right here, but their house is over here, and they want to know why there's a price differentiation, right? All real estate is local. So you can use this map and kind of make your buyers and your sellers. That's my 12-month change in estimated value. I can do a concentration of distressed properties. So see, the higher the areas, the darker the red. the more distressed properties in that area. Now, I will tell you this, if you get into the rural areas, let's say like that town in Compton that only has maybe 25 houses in town and you have one distressed property, it's going to turn the entire thing red. It's just a percentage of the properties in the area. That's my concentration of distressed properties. I can do average sale price, average listing price, pending sales concentration. That's kind of cool to see how the market is activated and which ones are, you know, under contract right now, which areas are doing best. So I like that map as well. But the one I use, I work with a lot of investors. And so I like my flood zone maps. If you notice, these are directly from FEMA. This is so much easier than going to FEMA.gov and looking up flood maps. So here's my subject property. Here's my flood. This is Kishwaukee River, right? And you can see where the flood zones are in pink. And then we have a little legend here as well, low risk, high risk, and coastal areas. So play with those heat maps. You're not going to break anything. Make sure you're playing with those heat maps. All right. Moving on, because there's so much to go over today. Here's my history chart. Now, again, we're in the same property here, right? So I have some of the same options, some of the same charts and graphs on the right hand. But this is my sales and financing activity. Now, every time this house was sold, you'd see a little house like this. And if I roll my mouse over it, it shows you the date it was sold and the amount. But there could be numerous sales on this graph. This is going back 7 years. I'm sorry, 6 years. So you could see more sales. This is kind of a, this dashed line is my RVM values and how they've changed over time. So it looks like this house was built about here, right? Because the property value goes way up. Then we have assessed values and the assessed market values when those change. If there was a distressed action against this property, you'd see a red line on the time frame. And if you rolled your mouse over that red line, it would tell you what type of notice was received, what type of distressed activity it was. Anytime you see any financing activity, like a refi, that would be there. And then a lot of times we have this estimated home balance. You'd see a grayed area that shows the financing. Now, any of those estimated loan balances are going to be based solely on the rate and the term of the loan. You know, it's going to be standard. We don't know if everybody's making their loan payments on time, and we don't know if they're doubling up on those payments every month. What we do is show what the amortized value would be if they're paying as agreed. And this one doesn't have that gray area, but a lot of them do. Again, I have another place for my notes. This shows my prior sales transactions. This is from public records, or I can flip that and look at my listing records. Right, so sale price here's $445. Listing records show the sale price at $800,000. Must have been a whole lot of personal property involved in that transaction. Here's my tax assessment information. I can continue on from my tax assessment information by clicking next, and it'll just take me through each tax year. My mortgage records, doesn't look like there's a mortgage currently on this property. If there was, you would see who lent the money, the term, and the rate. And then if there was distressed info, it would appear here. Any questions on our general information yet? All right. Next thing we're going into, here's our charts and graphs. If you have technical clients, they love this stuff. My engineering clients love this stuff. They just can't get enough of the data. So we have data, data, and data. This data is coming from our MLS. So we have tons and tons of data to work with here. This is median estimated value versus listing price. And then again, we can break these down into 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or change over time. We have our listing inventory, our inventory of distressed properties, inventory of distressed listings. So if you notice, take a look at these two things, especially if you're gonna highlight distressed properties or do short sales or foreclosures, and that's your niche market. You see we have pre-foreclosure and foreclosure properties. 83 notices have been sent to people to homeowners in the DeKalb area. Of those 83 houses that have had pre-foreclosure or foreclosure notices sent to them, only 3 are on the market. So you may have an opportunity to list a house that is in pre-foreclosure here, you know, and you can search for that. We have median sales price by square footage, price by square foot of homes sold, bedrooms, you name it. Then we can get into our refined values here and our comp analysis as well. But before we do those, I want to show you my neighborhood. Here's my neighborhood reports. Under my neighborhood reports, I have a summary, I have a housing page, a people page, an economy page, and a quality of life page. My summary page, again, charts and graphs, okay? So it's going to also include my population of children and my population of adults. When I go into my housing tab, I'm speeding up just a little because I'm looking at the time. My housing tab is going to have all my housing stats and facts. So here's 60115. This is DeKalb. Here's the county information. Here's the state of Illinois. Here's across the United States. So we can see things like percentage of home ownership to the number of people that rent. Now DeKalb has an enormously high number of renters because of the college. So that's why we see a 60% rental rate here in DeKalb. If you notice, if it compares across Illinois, Illinois' rate is about 34%, which is just under the average for the United States. But this is all information about the housing, right? Median listing price versus listing value, more charts and graphs. Tons and tons of information. These are all the neighborhoods nearby, and basically by zip code here. I have people in my neighborhood. This is really cool. My Mr. Rogers tab. I click on people, it's going to say, well, who lives here? So in 60115, I've got all this census data. Now remember, the census data is 10 years old. It was from our 2010 census. We will have new data when that's available after the 2020 census. But it shows the population of the zip code, of the county, of Illinois, of the entire United States. It shows me the education level, people who live in DeKalb, population of children by age group, population of adults by age group. Kind of tied here are 34 to 54 and are 21 to 24. Kind of makes sense in the college town. Number of households that have children, the income brackets, and then our occupational categories. It's kind of cool. As I assumed, education is our number one employer here, right? Most people work in education because of the college. Then we have accommodations, food. This always surprises me. We have 78 people in DeKalb that are mining. I'm not sure what they're mining for, but according to the census data they've returned, they are miners. Not miners as in underage, but as in mining coal in their backyard. Anyway, and then we also have our presidential voting patterns here, Democrat versus Republican. That's our people. So we have our economy. Be careful when you're working in people tabs, just so you don't violate any fair housing laws. Then we have our economy tab. And this shows the strength of our economy in the area. Got my unemployment rate for the county, 12.2, for the state of Illinois, 14, and across the country. So our employment numbers are here, income per capita is here, just tons and tons of information. And then the last link here under neighborhoods is my quality of life. Quality of life indicates that we have 83 full days of sun per year in DeKalb. I don't know if we have that many, but well, this will tell me if I'm near any Superfund sites and any brownfield sites. You know, in my zip code, those are very important, right? And, environmental considerations for new buyers. My average commute times are here. How do people get to work? A lot of bicycle riders in DeKalb because of this college. And then we have a walkability score. Not the best walkability score. So these are all things that we can learn from our property. So back to my detail screen. Here's my property. Sorry about that. So what I'd like to do now is go into and show you how you can refine values in RPR, right? We got about 12 minutes left, but we'll go through this pretty quickly. Here's my refine value tab. When I click on that, it gives me 4 ways to refine the value of this property. I can refine my value by adjusting the basic facts. I don't use this way to, I can adjust my value in my CMA. So I don't refine my basic facts here. You notice they don't have a lot of basic facts in this particular one coming from the county. This is county information. I can refine my facts or refine my value based on home improvements. Now this is what sets RPR apart from other CMA products out there. We've partnered with a company called Hanley & Wood, which does everything remodel. And they've come up with values for us. So many times you're on a listing appointment and the seller will say something like, Todd, I spent $30,000 remodeling my kitchen in 2018. What is my return on investment or my ROI? Well, if you're like most realtors, myself included, we used to hem and haw and jump around that particular question, answering it with a lot of words, but basically saying, I don't know. So now I can actually put it in black and white for what, you know, the return on investment was from that. Let me show you how to do that. So simply I just click on add a home improvement. I did it was a kitchen remodel. You see we have all of these to choose from. So I did a major kitchen remodel, let's say. Upscale. When I click on that, now it's going to tell me what the definition of an upscale kitchen remodel is. So update outmoded 200 square foot kitchen with 30 linear feet of top of the line custom cherry cabinets, built-in sliding shelves, stone countertops, commercial grade appliances. That constitutes a major kitchen remodel. Now my client said they did this, let's say they did it in July of 2018, and they spent $30,000. I click add, the system automatically did its calculations and added $16,000 worth of value to the property for that improvement that they did. And I can continue adding improvements here. So we did a garage door replacement back in November 2019. They spent $5,000. And I can just continue adding those. If you notice on the right-hand side, my refined value keeps going up when I keep adding things that they've done as far as home improvements. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, maybe my home improvement is not listed, because we can't list everything, right? There's gonna be situations where we don't know. If you use an other, now Hanley Wood is not computed values because they don't know exactly what you're improving here. So this one does a standard depreciation of 20% off every year from the year that you state that you did the improvement. Just a straight line depreciation. I'll show you an example of that. So let's say we're in August, right? So let's say August of last year, I spent 10 grand on carpet. Type in my description. And if I click add, you notice it gave me, it took 20% off because it's a year old. And it would be the same. It didn't matter if it was new carpet, didn't matter what I put in here as other, it's going to depreciate it the same way. So once I have all my improvements in here, then I can also refine the value based on needed improvements. Now, I call these things biddable items, right? Something I can get from my contractor. So let's say it needs a new roof. So I call a roofer. I come out. They give me an estimate. They say it's going to cost $12,000 on that roof. And so I'm saying, well, we need to put a new roof on this house or it won't sell. You notice now I'm taking value away. So I can add it and I can remove it. Again, refining my value based on needed improvements. I think of those as contractor type items. You know, need a tree removed, call the contractor, get an estimate. Need a new roof, call the contractor, get a new estimate. Need a new air conditioning unit, call the contractor, get an estimate. That way you can be spot on with these numbers. And the last way, and the fourth way to refine my value on this screen is by sliding. I'm going to just kind of make these a little smaller so you can see my numbers at the top here. Because my numbers running total is going to be on my top right-hand side. So if my market conditions, I can make some adjustments here to market condition. Let's say it's pretty, pretty good market. It's going to increase my value. Now these numbers I don't have any control over, so I tend not to use my sliders. I would go with my 811 383 based on my refining the value to the home improvements and any needed improvements. Once I have that in mind, I simply click on comp analysis. It's going to transfer over that information. There's a 4-step process to doing my comp analysis. First, I confirm my home facts. Once I have those, I confirm them and just click enter. I can make any changes there I'd like to as well. I've got 2 options here, comparative analysis and a sales comparison analysis. There's a little video here about the difference. But the more in-depth one that I can actually make modifications to values is my sales comparison analysis. This is so complete that appraisers can use it. I'm not an appraiser. So I'll go back, confirm my home facts because I changed types here. Then I can just find my comps right here in the system. Got my criteria on the left-hand side. Everything within the last 6 months, bedrooms and bathrooms, price range, square footage, whatever you want to search by for your comps. Simply click search. All right, there's no results here. We need to open up our search. So we're going to modify that search. Active pendings and sold, single family residence in the last year. 4 bedrooms, at least 3 baths. This is a very big home. So we're not going to have a whole lot of comps. But I'm just going to drop my linear to 3,000 square feet. So it found me 1 sold property and 2 for sale properties. Play with your criteria so that maybe you'll have more options. But I'm going to show you how you can add those to your CMA. So on our CMA, if I want to add this property here at 308 Greenwood Acres, I simply click on Add to Comps List. And if you notice, it added my comp. Here's a pending property. Again, if I want to add that to my comps list, I can add it there. I can also add these properties from my map. Now here's my orange subject property. These are the two properties I've already added in my CMA from the list below. But if I click on this other one that is for sale, right, I can click on the button and say use it as a comp. Once I do that, it's dropped down into my comps here. From my comps, I can remove it from my comp. If I don't no longer want to use it, I can replace it, do all of those things. So these are the comps I'm going to use. They're not the comps I would have chosen for this property, but we're doing this for illustration purposes only. If you notice this green star or blue star here, I've got a blue star here, got a blue star here. That simply means that the system used that particular property in its algorithm to come up with that RVM value, or Realtor's valuation model. Okay, once I have my comps chosen, I'm going to click Update Valuation and close. Then I can make adjustments. This is like every other CMA program you've ever worked with. You know, I can make adjustments based on the number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, number of anything, right? So here, my subject property has 5 bedrooms. This particular property has 6 bedrooms. So what I want to do in any CMA is to bring my comparables either up or down to match my subject property. So in this instance, it has 1 extra bedroom. I may take away value from that property for that bedroom. This one only has 4. I may add value to that property. If you have any questions about how to do CMAs, this is not a class on how to do them. It's more of a class on the system. Make sure you reach out to your managing broker. But I can make monetary adjustments to every single property here. Okay, I'm just going to do those. If you notice, it's going to change my net adjustment or my gross adjustments. It's going to show me if I went up or down. It's going to give me kind of a summary here, right? Now my comps are all over the board, so I apologize for that. There's one other thing I want to kind of show you here. I've got 3 comps on this property. If I had more comps, there'd be another screen I can access as well. But my comp weighting right now is it's taking those 3 properties, right, and it's breaking them down, a third here, a third here, a third here, or thereabouts. The system's going to do that automatically. But if you're like me, and most realtors, I would imagine, you see sometimes you find one perfect comp, right? So similar to it, sold recently, same floor plan, within a half a mile, you know, whatever your parameters are for distance. And you want to give that particular comparable more weight than you give to other comparables. This system allows you to do that. Now click on Edit here. You notice my comp weighting is here. I can weight them all equally, which is my system default. I can use the auto weight feature here. If I click on auto weight, doesn't want to play right. I click on auto weight, it should change these. It's not doing it today, maybe because of the time frame. But it should change these basically where the computer's saying, okay, we think as a computer that this property is more like the others, or more like your subject property than any of the others. And so it changes those counts. Let's say I know that. So let's say this house here on Greenwood Acres, it's really nearby. It is very similar to my property. So I give it an 80% kind of weighted score that it's more like my subject property than any of the others. I can break those down just as long as all of those percentages add up to 100%, it'll allow me to move forward. Now, I've got 800,000 house and I'm counting out for 245, but just don't pay attention to the numbers today. I click apply and close. Now I've changed the way that I am displaying those comps. Once I have all my changes made to my comps, I simply click update valuation and close. It's going to take me back here. So here's my value based on that. I can edit that, go back in and redo my comps. I can pull some more comps so I'm not happy, but this is the result of my sales comparison analysis. Now, if you notice, this ranges from 210 to 451. That's a system range. I don't like that, but I can supersede or override any of those values. So I say, you know, this house is worth $500,000. I would list it anywhere between $499 and $501. And then I can click save. Now, those are the numbers that my client's going to see on my report. Even though I went through all of this, they're going to show my CMA, but I'm going to actually, my estimates of the value of the subject property is going to be there. Once I have all of this complete, I can simply click a report. When I click report, it's going to default to my valuation workbook. The only way I can get to a valuation workbook is if I do a CMA. If I click on more details here, it's going to show me all of the details for that property. Custom pages. by clicking on Manage Custom Pages here, so I can upload like a marketing thing. I can upload my resume. I can upload anything I want my clients to see here via my custom pages. And to manage those, we simply click on this link. Then all of these report elements are going to be included, but this is completely customizable, right? So I can add or remove from actually being on my report. But for time's sake, we're not going to do that. Subject property, I'm going to include 2 photos. Restrict my report to 0.8 of a mile. Maximum listings per section, I'm going to drop that down to 10. Here's where I include my notes or not include my notes. I don't include my notes on my reports. If you want to, click the box. I can also suppress the estimated value for the subject property, suppress the comps, suppress the refined value for my subject property. There may be instances where you might want to do that. However, you're doing the work, you want your clients to see that. I can personalize my report here. I can write a small note to my client right there. Then I have 2 ways to deliver this. I can just run the report. It'll open up as a PDF on my computer and I can save it to my hard drive. That is my preferred method. Or I can email it directly to my client and then send a copy to myself. I never use this option only because the email that I have not placed my eyes on personally to my client. I want to make sure that I've included all the right information. If I haven't, I can go back in and make some changes to this. But if I just email it out to them, then I got to explain why it's not right. So I'm just going to display it now. Once I click Run My Report, it takes about 2 minutes to run a report, but you can continue working in the platform while that's doing it. So while that's running, I just want to go over my different reports and what I use them for, and we'll wrap this up today. My property report, this I use as a down and dirty report for all my buyers. I automatically generate property reports for each and every property I'm going to show. I send those to my buyer clients without making any adjustments to price. It's just raw data. And I want my clients to have that data. It'll show if it's in the flood zone. It'll show the RVM values. It'll show things. You can see what it all shows under the more details here, right? So that's my property report.
Hey, Todd, there's a question on the chat box from Nidra.
Yes, what's the question?
The question is, updating of reports is how often?
Good question, Nidra. So updating reports, the reports that I run are going to be static. There's going to be no changes to the valuation in any printed report that I'm saving. The system itself is going to save those reports for 30 days. If you don't, after 30 days, the system is going to purge all the reports. If you imagine there's 1.2 million realtors with access to this, data storage is always an issue. So I always save it to my hard drive, then I can keep that report forever. But the information in the report is not going to get updated because there's new listings or something gets sold. You know, it's not a dynamic report. It is static. Once you print it, that information is solid. So you'd have to go in and rerun your comps, rerun a report, and send a new report. I'm just going to segue into, I love being able to run these reports every 30 days for my clients. Most of the clients' complaints that I hear from other consumers and clients out there is that their realtor doesn't reach out to them, doesn't talk to them. They listed the house, they put a sign in the yard, and they disappeared. And a lot of the agents I talk to say, well, I haven't reached out to that client because I'm not sure what to say to them. We don't have any showings lately, or, you know, there's no activity. I don't know, I'm at a loss. Well, your property reports can step in here and do that. So every 30 days, I send a market activity report, which is right here, about what's going on in their area. If you notice, it's got, I'll download the report in just a moment. It's got tons of information about everything that's been listed in the time sent in the last 30 days and the last 60 days. You can set the time frame for that in your market activity report. Changes in the last 3 months, last 6 months, last month, last week. I do this monthly report here. Every 30 days, my listings get a report about what's happened in their neighborhood. This is a great time that we can have that conversation about maybe a price reduction if there's not enough activity. So that's what I use my market activity reports for. Seller's report is similar to a valuation report. When you do a CMA, you can send out the seller's report. That would include the CMA. Your property flyers, they have a fantastic property flyer platform here. I love it because it has all the information I want, none of the information I don't want. You can customize the photos. You can customize all those things, right? Here's its description. And it will allow me to create a property report even on a property that I don't have listed. You notice this is a sample. So that's that report. We also have mini value property reports. Those are very similar to my property reports, just less pages. My valuation workbook, I can only get to if I do a CMA. We talked about my market activity reports. Then I have my neighborhood reports. This is if somebody relocating to an area and they want to learn more about where they're going. This is a great way to enhance the services that you're providing to your sellers if perhaps they're moving out of the area. So if they're moving to California and they say, hey, I'm going to be living in Los Robles, you know, that's where we're intending to live. I can give them a neighbor report and show them all of the amenities for that particular town. Or if they're kind of trying to make a decision between two different towns, I can send them neighborhood reports on that. It can definitely increase your referral business. And the last one is school reports. This is going to just break down the schools and create a report based on each individual school. And again, that information is coming from greaterschools.net. I do apologize that I've been talking pretty loud or pretty fast, but there's so much information here. I'm going to download this workbook real quick and just show you what it looks like. Again, this is a valuation workbook. Here's where it says Mr. Seller right there. If I were to have typed a note to my seller, it would have appeared under my photo here. Notice this is all branded with me. Here's my numbers. Then it does tell them what comps I used, right? Current estimated value is going to pull from the system. That's my RVM value. And then I'm just going to let this scroll. You can see all the different reports or all the different information that's included in that valuation report. There's my historical property photos. And I can limit the number of photos in this report if you want to condense it. I typically use maybe my Adobe PDF and I take pages out and add pages to it to customize it on my own. There's my graph that you've seen. Let me slow this down just a little bit. Aerial maps, flood zone map, pricing maps, historical data. There's my CMA. And all the data that I did for this particular property. Can you tell how long this report is? So you're gonna have different types of clients. You're gonna have to determine, do they want all this information or do they not want all this information? Some clients do. They want every piece of information you can provide to them. This is a really cool page. This shows basically the trends page, right? So this is great information. And some of them are going to say, Todd, I don't care. I don't want all that data. Just tell me what you want to list the property for. So you are going to be the determination of how much information you're going to provide to your clients, right? Here's my, these are my hot maps or my heat maps from my map. It's going to include some of those. And then my supplemental properties. And I always include this last page. It's about RPR's data. Just let them know where I got the data from. All right, do I have any questions? All right, I've taken up everybody's hour. I thank you so much. I've even gone over a little time here. So if you need more help or information, just go to blog.narrpr.com. There you can tap into our schedule for live classes. You can tap into our webinars. We're not doing any really live classes at the moment. Nobody is. But you can also access any of our quick start guides, the PDFs that explain all the different features in here. They've got a robust self-training area available through RPR. I want to thank absolutely everyone for joining us today for our Hot Topic Tuesday with the Hometown Association Realtors. I'm your president, Todd Burkhart. I want everyone to have a fantastic day. Stay safe and stay healthy.